Hello, welcome back. Quite a big update today, and at the end of the video loads of pictures as usual. Try and explain basically what I've done. And as you can see, I've got the engine in, I've got all the fuel tanks on and the steps and toolboxes on. All the wiring's finished. Prop shafts are in, drive shafts if you prefer, underneath. A little bit of patch up painting to do yet, but that's not a problem. Radiator on. As I mentioned in the last video, the radiator holds the engine up, as you can see just inside there. And the green bit there is the mounting for the front of the cab. This bit here is the mounting for the back of the cab. It's, as I mentioned before with this, it's quite difficult to see with the gloss black, isn't it? Everything's done. The writing on these is so that I remember where to put things. And what have I got on there? It just tells me where the wires go into, I don't know if you can see it to be honest, this block here is the wire connectors for everything forward of the engine. So you've got three connectors there that run back and back along to the back of the sleeper cab here, which I'll get to in a minute or two. Excuse me. And the wires plug into these connectors here, will plug into there nicely. I'm not going to do that now because it's I want to show you separately how it all works. And that is about it for the finished chassis, running gear and engine. I'm not very happy with the fuel tanks. I think I mentioned that. You can see it more underneath. The shine's gone off the fuel tanks completely. And that's the chrome paint. As soon as you start to handle it, the shine goes off it. So if I do another one of these, which I probably will do to be fair, then any of the chrome work I'll leave off until the very last. You can see it more on this here, on the bull bar at the front. It's all worn off at the bottom completely, so it's going to have to be completely repainted. It's just gone very, very dull. And I think you can see it on the top there certainly, where it's rubbed off completely, and it's gone back to the gloss black that I've used as an undercoat, which you're supposed to use to be fair. So I'm going to paint that, I'm going to reprime that and then paint it gloss black, because I think that'll look quite nice. But that's the only problem with the chrome, is that it does rub off very, very easily. And if you use the chrome that came with the kit, it looks very much like a toy, and it's up to you really. It's your kit if you use it. As I've mentioned with this, there are some problems with the fit. You can see that fuel tank's out of line a little bit. It's a little bit too high up, and no matter what I do with it to try and get it back down, it either puts the steps out of line or the tank out of line. It's just one of those things. When the cab's on it, to be fair, you won't notice it at all. All the wiring's done, all the connectors are ready to go in, and I'll show you some of it. I should be able to show you all of it before I finish this video. I've shown you all this at the back here on the last video, and I think I've shown you just about everything on the chassis. So that's the chassis. We've got a cab here. It comes in sections. The whole thing comes in sections, this cab. It's the roof, it's got a liner on the roof as well. The side, the back, the front and the other side, and the floor as well. So the whole thing's in sections. It goes together reasonably well, but you're going to have to get the roof in particular is going to have to glue on quite carefully really, otherwise you end up with a gap all the way around here. And what I did with it was I glued one edge on, waited until it set, then went round the other side and glued the other side on, press it down, clamp it together, wait till it sets, and did that with each and every panel. And the back one, you can see there's a little tiny lip there, it's about a 0.5 mil, 0.5 of a mil. where it's raised up on both sides, but it simply won't go in any further without actually breaking something, so that's where it stays. It's all wired up on the inside. I'll turn the lights on in a minute so that you can see the inside of the cab, but you can see that I've painted the seats a red and black stripe, which was the colour of the seats in my truck. Red and black. You'll be able to see that more clearly in a minute or two. And all the wiring underneath. There are 2 marker lights on the side. The kit doesn't come with those, but mine had it, so I'll put them on. And a step light on each side, so you can see where the steps are. I'm debating whether to put a cover over that, but I don't think anybody's ever going to see that wiring. Once the cab's on there, it's disappeared, hasn't it? It's gone completely. So I'm probably going to leave it. What else have I got? I'm going to repaint all this so that it comes out black underneath. Everything underneath is black. Bit of metal paint on the air intakes there. And what else is there underneath? Nothing. On the top, I'll finish with those first. All these wires for the step light and the side lights come up, go through little channels and up into the top of the doorway for the sleeper there. I'll mask that out, and then when it goes onto the sleeper, they'll disappear into it, which is where all the other wiring is. These will disappear completely because the sleeper cab actually comes out further than the cab. There's a very narrow cab on these. A lot of American trucks have very narrow cabs on them, don't they? And what else? Yeah, the lights on the top. There's 5. The God Bless You lights on the top. And drilled a hole through them at about 30 degrees. And then drilled a hole in the roof at about the centre of each light. And then the wires come through and into the roof and then back out the front here. The air conditioner doesn't fit on the roof at all. I don't know where they got that from. It needs filling across the back there, as you can see. I've put some filler in there. It looks to me as though it was for another kick entirely. It fits where it touches. I can actually get a knife blade under there. And the same on this side. So it sort of fits where it touches. A bit of filler around the edges, and that's gone away, hasn't it? The lights on the top, again, I'd chrome painted them, but with handling it's just come off completely. So what I'm going to do is hand paint them with chrome paint when I've finished. The windscreen, I cocked up one of the wires here in the back. So I had to cut it and resolder it to a new wire. In the process, like a Pratt, I let the solder drip, and it dripped through and landed on the inside of the windscreen. You couldn't have got any closer to missing it completely, could it? And melted a hole in the windscreen. It's not an actual hole, but it looks it. So I'm debating whether to put a couple of scars in that and make it look like a stone hit. I'll see. But I was very disappointed with myself for doing that, but there you go. So that's what that is. And that's about it for the cab. I'll show you the lights lit up. So you've got all 5 God Bless You lights at the top, the marker lights at the side. Obviously all 9 of those will be orange across the top, and on both sides will be painted orange, and that will cut the brightness down. And when I've sprayed all this black, you won't see any brightness underneath there either. That will disappear. So that's the ones on the roof, and the step lights, simple enough, just 2 lights above the step. The cab light, I don't know if I can get... Right, we're cooking on gas again. So you can see inside the cab, we've got the dashboard. Unfortunately it's a transfer, you can't paint them on. I have painted a few of the little dials and switches at the bottom there, and that's basically all I can do. A chrome plated ashtray. Gear lever looks very much like a neat twin splitter to me. The seats, red and black. The dashboard, as I say on mine, it had a red board around it, so that's what it's got all the way round. And the steering wheel, you can see in through the side there. Yeah, should be able to see in through this side as well. Yeah, the door panels are half red, half black. The chrome on the windscreen winders and the door handles, but again you can't really see it from there. And when you built these kits, if you don't light them up, you can't see inside them at all. So hey ho. So that's that. As I say, there's loads of pictures at the end of the video. Undo that wire. That's that one. Put this to a side. This is the sleeper cab, and as you can see, there's quite a lot of stuff in there. It's all the switches on the top there are all on there, and it's touch switches, so when you look at it from the outside, there's nothing at all. The two beacons on the top, there's 3mm LEDs, and I've squared them off at the top so that the actual beacons that came with the kit will fit over the top of those two beacons. Obviously it'll be painted orange. There's a working light that was supposed to be fastened to the door mirror, and I didn't see any point in that really, but I've made a bracket for it and stuck it on the back of the cab so that it points down at where the Susies are, so that you've got some light in your working area. To get all those switches in, you need to cut 2 slots out of that piece of plastic there. I've just pulled the wires off those switches, and then on the inside, I don't know how well you can see all of that, to be honest. Again, there's loads of photographs, and if you want to know how it was done or what it was done with, then don't hesitate to ask. There's all the electronics in there, which is basically mainly connectors for the wires. The battery will go into there, like so, and I left space if I decided to put 2 batteries in, but I'm not. It will run with just 1 battery. I've tried it all out, it all works. The switch to isolate it completely is at the front here, and a little warning light which I'll paint green. I can't remember in Australia whether you had them or not, but in this country you have a green battery isolated light, warning light, so it won't look that odd, and when you switch it on, that light will come on and you know that it's on. The reason I've done that is the last one I did with wiring it up like this, I left the switch on, and these switches, touch switches, draw a current all the time waiting for somebody to touch them. So when I came to show it off the next time, the battery was flat, so I've put a light on it to make sure that I don't do that again. I've also made a few other modifications on the back of the sleeper here that you can see. I've put a piece right across here and 2 pieces across here. It's also going to need a piece across the bottom at some point, about 2mm wide, so that it makes up that little lip there. Okay, now the reason I've done that is the back of the sleeper needs to be able to come off so that I can change out a battery if needed. And I've made it took me a long time to get it right, but I've put all that together so that it doesn't take any pressure at all to get that held together the way it would do without all this stuff in it. So that when it's painted, it won't look as though that's detachable. This back piece is detachable. And what I'm going to do is put double-sided tape on there and there and there, and then stick it on. The double-sided tape I've got is really very strong, and it really does stick stuff down. So that's why it's all those bits of plastic are in there. All those bits of plastic are in there, and I needed to build them up so that they were wide enough to take enough tape to hold the back on. So that's that. I can't really show you any of the lights working on that bit because it's the wires aren't quite long enough, I don't think. So we'll leave that as it is. The bull bar at the front, as I mentioned earlier, most of the paint's come off it, most of the chrome paint's come off it, so it looks a bit horrible at the moment, a bit daggy. But essentially what it's got is it's got two spotlights. There's no lenses in them yet, and two spotlights down here. These had to have the lenses in because they come in from the back. And on the back I've made two little casements for them so that the light will shine forwards and not backwards. I've also, in that big gap in the bull bar there, you would have a toe point, and that would be used at the same as the one at the back of the tractor here, and they would be used for the same thing, either pulling the tractor itself or moving a dolly around, either pushing it or pulling it. So that's what that big hole's for there. So it's probably a waste of time because nobody will ever see it. It's on the inside. I've made a proper towing hook for that, and when it's all painted again, I think that'll look quite nice. Just to show you how they work, plug it in there. And brilliant, only two of them work. Oh, that's not good. That's not good at all. Well, there's my task for this afternoon, is to take that one apart and find out why that LED is not working. Occasionally it happens, one just goes out, you've wiggled a wire when you should have wobbled it, and then nothing happens. That's a big shame, that, because there's a lot of wire in there that's got to be moved around. Okay, so that's that's where it's up to at the moment. I need to replace one out, swap one bulb out there. So that's the spotlights. Put that up there, and that glues onto the front of the bonnet here, and the bonnet carries all the wires from the spotlights on the front right the way round, the indicators on the mud guards, there you go round, and 4 headlights in the front of the bonnet. And again, all that then plugs into this connection point here on the tractor unit, and then it's more or less hidden by the bonnet, the engine, chassis, everything. It's gone. So I'll just show you how they work. All this is, and again the writing on there, a bit of tape on it will come off eventually, and it's just to tell me what goes where. These spotlights that I've just shown you that one ain't working, plug onto that coupling there. You've got the indicators. They will of course flash. It's just a test on this to show you that how they work. And the headlights, all 4 of them work, and the 2 side lights on the edge of the bumper, on the edge of the wing. They are part of the kit. They are shown in the kit, but they're put on as reflectors. In real life they would normally be marker lights. So that's all of those. And as I say, all the wiring goes inside and up to there, and then back to the tractor unit. These extra pieces that I've put in are to strengthen it. It's very wobbly before you put those in. It wobbles all over the place, and I didn't like that, so I put some strengtheners in there, and it also helps me hide the wires through that tube. So that's that. Then got another little piece I've made. In the kit, the sleeper cab goes on over here, goes on to about that point there, and they have supplied a little tiny foot plate that just about covers the middle of the chassis there. I wouldn't like to work on it, because if you stepped off the edge of it, you go straight down the gap between the fuel tank and the chassis on either side. in real life it's a much bigger piece of kit. So I've made one, which is this, and it goes, you can see underneath, I've tried to do it properly, bolt heads on it, and I think a mesh on the top, I think that looks quite realistic, and that sits on the chassis there, comes back as far as it'll go, and the sleeper cab will sit in front of it, and then the cab in front of the sleeper cab, and that is a proper size for the catwalk, as I'd call them. And you come up the steps, stand onto there, plug your Susies on, whatever else you want to do around there, and then you can get on and off safely from either side. Whereas coming up the step here, you'd have a hell of a step onto the footplate there if you use the one that's in the kit. That will be painted black, and again that has a marker light in it, so it's one way round, a light on either side of it. Yeah, and again they'll be orange, so the catwalk itself will be black and the lights will be orange. There are no Susies with the kit, and nowhere that shows there would be Susies with the kit. So on the back there, on the back of the cab, I've made I call them Mavis rails. I don't know why, it's a name that I've used since I was a kid, when truck drivers that I knew when I was a kid used that name, called them Mavis rails, but there you go. And basically all I've done is glued 2 pieces of PVC together at a right angle, bent 4 pieces of wire to simulate the air and electrical pipes coming up from behind the cab here and up into the top. The Susies will sit on top of this one, a red, blue and yellow, and obviously when the truck's running they will be in the centre and they will connect to the trailer. When it's a tractor only, when it's running solo, they will loop over and you stow them on this one here. These on the top are just little pieces of PVC tube, cut them all to the same length except the electrical one, which will have a different connector on it, and just plop them in. So that's what they're for. The Susies on the back, and I think that's about all I can tell you about it. What I'm going to do, if you have any questions with it, by all means ask. Just use a comments box at the bottom. I'm only too happy to answer, good or bad. And what I'm going to do now is I'm going to prime it all, and then I'm going to paint it all, and then I'm going to put it all together and show you the final reveal. The colours I'm going to paint it, the cab's going to be red, basically a cherry red. I'm thinking about putting a black stripe down the bottom here, a gloss black stripe down the bottom, and everything's going to be bright red basically, and the mudguard on each side will be black, and that black stripe down the side, and I think that'll look quite, oops, let's see if I can get it into the shot, quite effective there, because the mudguard comes up to where that black stripe will be, which is how it was on my truck. If I can find any photographs of my truck, I will post them. But in those days I was more interested in chasing women and driving the trucks than actually taking pictures of them. It was a long time ago. Any questions, any comments, please leave them in the bottom. Please like and share the video if you can do, and I shall speak to you next time. Ta-da!